can demonic stuff be science? Like, can you start to use science to,
Okay, so I had this question.
like neurolink or something?
I remember
like splicing genes.
I was talking to somebody in my small group, and a friend of ours from Mozambique told us this story about, like, their warlocks and witches fly on carpets.
Yeah.
And he's just like, it's like normal. And there was a news story about this church that had a hole in its roof because a witch was flying over the church and lost all her demonic power and fell through the roof of the church and died in the sanctuary, like splat dead. And so I'm telling this story. I'm telling this story at small group, and these guys who do not believe in this supernatural world, or like don't give it very much credit.
Yeah. They're like, no.
Yeah, they just said no. That does not happen. No. and basically,
why do we have that? Like, that's the reaction even believers have. Like, even people that acknowledge the Bible say, nope, like, there's nothing outside. Like, why do we have that reaction? It's because of the propaganda we grew up with, and materialistic worldview. It's crazy. It's just like been driven into our minds and our thinking.
I wish I could remember. C.S. Lewis, I think, has one of the most clear heads on this kind of stuff than anyone I've read.
Yeah.
But that quote, that really famous quote from the Screwtape Letters about, like, if we make people religious, then he's talking from the perspective of a demon. If the demons make people religious, then they'll worship them, but they also might find God. But if we make people materialists, they won't believe in God or us,
and then we'll get
but we won't get any worship.
Yeah.
And he said our key objective is to make the materialist magician, the person who thinks he's dealing with science, so-called, but really he's accessing the demonic world. And so I think they're two different tactics. One, in so many parts of the world, is to make it open, but so fearful and oppressive that you bow to the will of the demonic world. And the other is just to make you forget about them.
And that's why we need to be sensitive to the Holy Spirit. Because the only reason to stop going down a rabbit hole on YouTube about conspiracies is because you get that little check in your spirit.
Yup.
That
so
says,
many
like,
times.
Hey, don't, go. And then you're like, but God, and then you're just like, maybe just a little bit more.
And that's exactly the secret knowledge. You're like, I want to know. And the Holy Spirit is like, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Like, you've had enough.
Because knowledge is not the end all be all. Like,
there is demonic wisdom.
Yeah. And it's not good to know. Like, there's things that you would be better off not understanding and not knowing. And it's like, what's crazy is we're venturing into a world where we're going to have to be prepared to make some crazy choices that we never thought we would have to make. Like getting a chip in our brain. That is here today. You can get a chip in your brain today. They started human trials.
Okay. Well, here's the other side. When that's science, we think we're talking about science.
Yeah.
But just go 1,000 years ago, and somebody says, like, what you need is an amulet to wear around your neck to ward off from evil spirits. There's not a one-to-one analogy,
yeah.
but it's like you hide this language in, a scientific sense, and we have to make those decisions. But thousands of years ago, or like in some places in the world, it's today. You know what I mean? Like the spiritual world is so real and alive. You have to make this decision about, should I wear the evil eye around my neck to ward off spirits?
Yeah.
And they have to make these spiritual decisions where we have
There's an evil eye emoji.
Yep. Yeah. And the hand that wards it off. Yeah. Isn't there also a middle finger emoji?
Yeah.
I mean, it's godless, but here I am with my bite out of
Apple phone.
Male pregnancy emoji.
I love Apple. I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, their products
are the best.
What were we talking about? Why?
We were talking about, like...
Oh, science.
Yeah, technology.
I think that I've said this almost exactly before in another podcast, but basically, the spiritual world cannot be denied. It is real. It is there. It will not go away just because you don't want it to be there. Okay. So the magic carpet. This is why I was talking about this, because basically my point was, like, those beings are there. they operate on a spiritual, they operate in the spiritual world. The fact that you don't understand it, you call it magic or supernatural, but they're a part of God's created order. So
Yeah.
if a spirit being can lift up a magic carpet with you on it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's just what it can do. It's part of the created order of things that it can do. But the fact that you don't understand it, you think it's magic. But as science progresses, what we're doing is we think that we're reaching into, oh, this is the natural created order of things. But when you cross the threshold into the spiritual realm, you can still begin to figure out the created order of the spiritual realm and master it.
So
and
that
you
might
think that's science,
yeah.
but actually
Well, I think that's a worldview issue, right?
anybody ignorant of the science would just call it magic. The
Yeah.
fact that you can, I'm so sorry, I mean, but I'm just going to be real. The fact that we can kill an unborn child in a woman's womb and then repurpose its cells to heal people, that's called necromancy.
Yeah.
We call it science, stem cell research, but that is called necromancy.
Yeah.
That is death magic.
And just to be clear, there is what is it called? Moral ways to get stem cells other than aborted babies. Yeah. But that is a way that some people get stem cells. And you see that those stem cells actually are much more likely to cause cancer than stem cells gotten other ways.
Yeah. It's death magic that brings a curse on you. Like, go figure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or a whole host of other things that we call science. But if you were to try to explain to somebody, like a peasant farmer in the 1200s, that we can do this stuff now, they would call you a magician, and they would be right.
Yeah.
It's just that and once you cross that threshold into understanding how the spiritual world works, and you unlock its secrets as part of the created order, we're just going to push through that boundary and keep calling it science when it's no longer science.
Well, yeah, because it's likely that, because if demons are just spiritual beings who are in rebellion, then they're only able to use the things that God has given them access to, which is, the universe or the material created order of things. Yeah. And so maybe
or whatever secrets belong to the spiritual world that we're not aware of.
Yeah,
they perfectly are.
But maybe like those things aren't so far out of reach for humans, and that kind of like goes to the Tower of Babel.
We got to table that. We got to table that. That is definitely worth talking about. But we got to.